Hey guys, Mr. Bowman here. Today's learning objective is in orange and we are learning to convert between degrees and radians. So in the work so far on this topic, we've really just been focusing on degrees, but there are a couple formulas that operate with respect to radians. So we need to know if we had radians, how do we get to degrees? And if we had degrees, how do we get back to radians? So in terms of a bit of context for your understanding, there are a few things that we need to know later on. We need to find out an arc length, and the formula for that would be S is equal to R delta, and that delta will be in degrees, will be in radians, not degrees. We're also going to need to know how to calculate the area of a sector. Similar deal. The formula for this will be with respect to radians, so 1/2 of pi r squared times delta. And again, we are working with radians, not degrees. And the final formula we need to be aware of, area of segments. And this one's a bit longer. The area is equal to 1/2 of r squared delta minus sine delta. And again, those deltas are both with respect to radians. So hopefully you can see as we're moving towards different topics, we do need to know how to deal with radians. How do we switch from the degree version back to the radian version for these formulas? So you may recall from previous trig studies that a trig graph involves a full revolution. And when you're talking about degrees, a full revolution is 360 degrees, but in radians, that there is equal to 2 pi. And when we have a look at this halfway point, that there would be equal to 180 degrees, which is equal to half of that of pi. So the key thing we need to remember, 180 degrees is equal to pi lots of radians. And this here helps me remember which one I'm trying to do. So I've just added in 4 questions, and we've got a couple questions we're trying to convert degrees from radians and vice versa, radians to degrees. And the way I like to remember them, they do involve this pi and 180 degrees. So you're either going to be multiplying by pi divided by 180, or you're going to be multiplying by 180 divided by pi. Oh, we're at 5, but definitely pi. And the way I like to remember them, the top number is what you're aiming for. So this means you're converting to radians. And the one down the bottom, 180 degrees, that means you're converting to degrees. And the opposite one is just on the bottom. So if you're converting to radians, you're going to have 180 degrees on the bottom. If you're converting to degrees, you're going to have pi radians on the bottom. So hopefully that makes sense. Whatever the one is on top, that's the one you're trying to convert to. So let's have a look at some of these questions. So we've got 90 degrees. We're trying to convert to radians. So the key thing is we're converting to radians. So we're going to be going 90 times pi over 180, and the pi being on top because we're going for radians, degrees 180 on the bottom because we are switching from that. And when we do that, we can calculate that as a number, or we could simplify it as a fractions. That'll be 90 pi over 180, which will be equal to pi divided by 2. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's have a look at the next question. 3 pi over 4, we're converting that to degrees. So we're going to go 3 pi over 4. We're going to multiply that by 180 over pi. And the 180 is on top because we are aiming to get to degrees. And when we do that, that's going to be 540 pi divided by 4 pi. The pi's are going to cancel each other out, and that leaves us with 540 divided by 4, which gets us to 135 degrees. So pi's are cancelling each other out, and then we move on to there. The next one, we're now going to look at 60 degrees. We're converting to radians, so it's going to be 60 times pi over 180. Again, the pi is on top because we're converting to radians. And then that's going to be 60 pi over 180, which would be pi divided by 3. And the final question, hopefully we're getting the hang of this, we're now got pi over 5. We're converting to degrees. So we're going to start off with pi divided by 5 degrees, which means 180 is on top and pi is on the bottom. That's going to be 180 pi divided by 5 pi. The pi's are going to cancel each other out, and 180 divided by 5 gets us to 36. So which means that there will be 36 degrees. So hopefully you found this video on converting between radians and degrees useful. Just a reminder, there are some formulas that we'll be learning in the next couple lessons that only apply when we're dealing with radians. So if we've been given a degrees, we must know how to convert that back to radians. And hopefully you've understood that when we're converting to radians, we have the pi on top. And when we're converting to degrees, we have the 180 on top. Thanks for watching, guys. Now let's get into heaps and heaps of practice.